We're here in celebration of women, but also to raise important questions, important issues that touch women. I am pleased to say that I'm not the anchor today, I'm not the moderator today, but I have the distinct honor and privilege to, well, support and bring upstage at some point two amazing ladies. One of them is a lawyer. She's a maritime lawyer. I think for those of you that were here on Monday, she was on one of my panels. And the second person is an engineer, an electrical engineer. There's another hat that I have that some people don't know. I co-lead the United Kingdom chapter of what they call WIRE. The full meaning of WIRE is Women in Renewable Energy. Why are we here today? WIRE and partner, that's the Professional African Technical Network Advisory Initiative, are now joining hands to support women, especially in the energy space. 349 0. What do I mean by those numbers? Can anybody guess? No takers? The African Union Blue Economy reports states that currently the blue economy generates about $300 billion in Africa and is projected by 2050 to increase by over 100 billion. When we think about those numbers, my guess is as good as yours, the percentage of women driving that amount of cash. I said 49. 49 million jobs are within the blue economy space, just the blue economy space. And it's projected that about 57 or so million jobs will be available by 2050. And I said zero. What do I mean by zero? As we stand, I actually don't know of any reliable, quantifiable data that speaks to the contribution of women, the role of women, not just in the blue economy, but I'm talking about academia, government, I'm talking about legislators, lawyers that are really making waves, not only in the blue economy space, but in the ocean space, in the energy space. Zero. Where is the data? We're generating a lot of data within the ocean space, but our data are not necessarily gender responsive. So today, I'm happy to announce that between Partner and WIRE, and I'm calling other organizations to join us, we want to begin a call to action for just an equitable transition, just an equitable transition of gender initiative, gender data initiative. What do we mean by that? We want to begin to systematically collect data on women, evidence-based data, to demonstrate the role of women, the gap we have, the gap we need to fill, and the positive discrimination we need to introduce into the ocean space to support women. And on that note, I want to bring upstage Liz Mubari. She's the co-chapter lead for Kenya within WIRE. She's an electrical engineer. She will introduce herself, but she's really dear to my heart because when you hear her speak, you can hear the passion in what she says. I don't want you to just look at the woman. I want you to understand what she's trying to pass across to us. We are in an economy within Africa that is called the raw resources economy. We need to move away from that, and women can make that change. If we looked around the room, we're about 80% women But if we look at governments and where decisions are made, we're almost zero. How do we turn this economy of low value products to high value commodities? She's going to make us more intelligent today, and I can't wait to hear from you. Over to you, Liz. Please let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Dr. Donna. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Liz Mubari. As mentioned, I'm an electrical engineer and the Kenyan chapter lead for Women in Renewable Energy, which is WIRE. Today, I'll be presenting on building gender-responsive decarbonization industries in Africa as we chart out the path to a just green and blue transition. So, as mentioned, let me start with the numbers. Africa's blue economy generates, 300 billion annually. Oh,
They can't see your slide.
sorry, can you not see my Oh,
Please, can you help me so we can see the slide?
can you see my slide? Okay, great. Let me start again. So these are the numbers that we're looking at. Africa's blue economy generates 300
Space, sorry.
Oh, it's going to disconnect. Okay, perfect. Africa's blue economy generates 300 billion annually. It supports 49 million jobs. We have a vast coastline of 38,000 kilometers, which is more than any other continent. 90% of our international trade moves through our ports, and we hold 60% of the world's best solar resources. But despite all this potential, we only attract 3% of the global energy investment. And within this limited investment, how much specifically targets women's participation? And how can women benefit and shape this transformation? This is the question that we want to answer today. Now let's talk about where we stand today. There are gender gaps in the maritime and renewable energy sectors. So women represent 1.2% of seafarers globally. We have limited data available on women in African port operations. In the renewable energy sector, we only have 2% of the renewable energy workforce who are women, and most of them are concentrated in administrative roles rather than technical positions. In leadership, we have about 25%, which is really, really small. And a major concern is that gender data is largely absent from the maritime sector. So how can we design inclusive policies if we don't even know where we stand? And this isn't a conversation just about fairness. This is about results. Why gender responsive decarbonization delivers better results. There are economic returns. For example, we have gender diverse companies consistently show improved financial performance. Women-led renewable energy initiatives demonstrate strong community engagement. Women's participation in energy projects increases community adoption. And this is backed by data. So there's research that was done by the Journal of Corporate Finance that says firms with gender diverse boards are more likely to consume higher proportions of renewable energy, which also correlates with improved financial performance and increased company value. From 2Times Global, we have companies with higher numbers of female board members and directors are more likely to improve their energy efficiency and reduce their environmental impact. So involving women isn't charity. They're actually economic returns and more innovation. And now we look at our continental strengths, as highlighted earlier. Africa is actually really positioned to lead the blue economy transformation because we have abundant resources. 60% of the world's best solar resources, 70% of our population is under 30. We have critical minerals that are needed for the renewable energy transition, that is. So the question isn't whether we can lead, it's about whether we can lead in a just way that utilizes all our talent, including the 50% that we've historically left on the sidelines. Now let's talk about money, because capital is required for this transformation. So currently, like in 2024, 110 billion was projected to flow to African energy sectors. 70 billion of that went to fossil fuel. There were barely gender considerations in these financing structures, and women's access to capital was still limited across all the sectors. So we have instruments that that are available, like grants, carbon markets, equity concessional finance. The gap only lies in connecting that capital with women-led initiatives. The good news is we're not starting from zero. We have women in renewable energy. which is already supporting gender-responsive decarbonization in action. And WIRE is a nonprofit organization that seeks to advance the role and recognition of women working in the renewable energy sector. And we do this through capacity building workshops, networking, meetups, webinars for technical upskilling. And this is just a photo of us at an electric manufacturer for e-mobility. Here are some other pictures of us. We visited clean cooking factories. We visited, as I mentioned, the electric mobility manufacturers. We had climate advocacy workshops to include more women in climate leadership. And so this brings me to a really critical point in today's discussion, which is the gender data. Right now, we have very fragmented data on women's participation in many sectors, including the maritime sector. There are no standardized metrics for gender participation in the blue economy. We can't track financing that goes to women-led enterprises, which undermines, as I mentioned, our ability to design effective policies and target investments. So today we are proposing a change that will have a comprehensive data collection framework that tracks women and also other underrepresented groups across the different maritime sectors. And this transformation will not be possible without partnerships. And that's why I want to challenge everyone in this room to make concrete commitments. Partner and WIRE are ready to work with you. I'm talking about investing in human capital, student exchange programs, internship pipelines, technical collaboration, mentorship networks, financial commitments. Let's see how we can work together. Thank you. And now we turn to our first speaker who will be joining us on the panel, a speaker who embodies the role of women in ocean affairs, a one-time African Union Person of the Year, a woman who has shattered glass ceilings by redesigning Kenya's maritime space. She has 39 years of experience in the industry and is a leading voice for the blue economy. She is a leader at the International Maritime Organization and now an advisor to the government of Kenya on maritime affairs. Welcome, Ambassador Nancy Parigito. Yes. She said she wore pink because we were talking about gender. Yes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Ambassador Nancy, I have a question for you, or I don't know if I should invite the other panelists first.
Yes.
Okay. So next up, we have Ms. Nicole, who is a finance professional specializing in the green transition as the head of transactions at the Namibia Green Hydrogen Program. She supports the hydrogen projects by facilitating blended finance. Welcome, Ms. Nicole. Yeah. And lastly, we have Mr. Numbu Sumabe, who is a senior maritime officer at the Ghana Maritime Authority with over 15 years of experience in the industry. He leads the development of Ghana's National Action Plan for Shipping Decarbonization and is the National Support Officer for the Green Shipping Corridors study in Ghana. Welcome, Mr. Numbu. Okay. So I'll start with Ambassador Nancy.
Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having us this morning, and thank you for coming to discuss this very, very relevant topic as we navigate the transition of shipping into a new sustainable measure. Let me start by saying that since the 18th century, the humanity has experienced different industrial revolutions. You recall, we started with water and steam engines, and in each of every industrial revolution, shipping has benefited. With water and steam engines, we could build bigger ships, go long distances, which accelerated manufacturing and therefore more trade. Then we got into the technological age, then we could build bigger, efficient ships, so more manufacturing and more international trade, as I would say. With the age of now digital technology, we are seeing the need to work differently. Digitalization and decarbonization of shipping are going to take center stage. Now, what we realize is that with each revolution, some jobs are lost, others are gained, and shipping has not escaped. We used to have carpenters, they are no more. with weaving, with textile manufacturing, weavers lost their job. Mechanized agriculture, the farmers were affected. The same with shipping. Now, with the new industrial revolution, with digitalization and decarbonization, new jobs are also being created. We will need to occupy the space, and therefore, skills will be different. And with transition, IMO has pronounced itself, leave no one behind, and therefore inclusivity is a major issue. You cannot get into the new transition without involving half of humanity. We've already seen from your figures that women are less than 2%, particularly in the seafaring workforce, which is the bedrock of the shipping industry. Now, with those figures, what does it mean? That you're more likely to spot a mermaid at sea than a ship captain. And we need to change that tide. A ship captain who is a woman. I forgot that. So a ship captain who is a woman, they are less than mermaids at sea. We need to change that tide. So what do we do? First of all, we need to catch them young, policies of catching the women young, mentor them and get them into interested in the industry, then support them to have the attributes and qualities that will make them not just get in, but also stay in the jobs. And I belong in Kenya to a team of women who work with UNESCO. We are called STEM mentors because we work with young girls up from age of 13 to tell them about skills in the careers with, science, technology, maths, and engineering. And we've realized that going into high school, for them to see real life role models, because we are all in the space, it helps them to imagine, because you don't see it, you can't imagine it. And therefore, such programs are needed so that girls, when it comes to the critical age of choosing careers, don't realize that, oh, I should have done maths, I should have made more effort to learn physics because it's what will get me into a career in the maritime sector. So when they learn about this when they are younger, when they can see real life role models, then they'll gravitate towards the career. Then we need to set up programs that mentor the young women as they enter, to make them resilient, to give them the confidence to navigate the sector. Most important, we need to have women in the boardrooms of maritime companies, because they are more likely during interviews to look different. If it's an all-male interview panel, of course, we are nothing against our brothers, but mentally, the girls will stand a better chance, and if there's nobody in the room rooting for them, then it makes a difference. Then we also need to support them when we talk of a just and equitable transition and bringing in the redistribution of the levies. Can we have, as we make our rules and regulations, we insulate and set aside through rulemaking funds that support women in upskilling, because we are talking of both onshore and offshore. If we are going to deal with the new energies, safety issues, can we upskill the ladies in the sector and incentivize companies to support the women in the sector? Most important, women on ships. We need programs that support them. Internet, insulating them from bullying, from discrimination on board. Yesterday, I was in a virtual meeting, and we were looking at how to increase sea time for African cadets. And one of the most painful realization of hearing stories from girls saying that they grew older. Cadetship has an age in most shipping company, age limit of 25. But then if you can't get seat time to be able to translate into certificates of competency until you are 25, then you blame me as a girl that you can't take me as a shipping company because I'm past that age limit. Then that is positive discrimination. We need partnerships, like you said, between industry and the trainers and governments, so that we are able to get them in younger and at the right time, and then develop them. Areas where policy making has worked, IMO has a program, integration of women in the maritime sector. one of the outputs of that program, that's been since uh, since 1988. And one of the outcomes of that program is coming up with women associations, regional women's associations, so that mentorship, women come together, they mentor the young ones, they work together to support each other, they are visible role models. And therefore, one of the things I had the privilege of doing is creating a regional organization for women. It's called WOMESA, Association for Women in the Maritime Sector in Eastern and Southern Africa. 24 countries, and we help and support girls and young women, work to find scholarships for them so that we can help them at least enter the first round of the ladder to the maritime sector. So that's a positive way. That's a policy initiative that has helped women. Then we've seen in companies like Maersk, they have a cadet program, and they are looking, or they have a goal by 2027 that 50% of their cadets will be women. So that's a visible also policy. Then another company, Synergy, is coming up with female what are they called? The safety, gear, women. Would you believe that even today we have women, their safety is an issue because when you're given the PPPs, they were made for men. I mean, we are made differently. Can and even getting such simple things for companies to recognize is an issue because I'm not safe if I'm wearing a garment that was made for a man and I've got a body that needs to acknowledge, that the uniform fits me. So those are some of the small things men won't understand, but, they definitely work to tell women, yes, we are welcome. I belong to a diversity and, inclusion committee by one of the major shipping lines. And one of the things we discovered that we also must do is speak in a language that tells women, yes, come, you're welcome. Young girls, Gen Zs, they take the issue of inclusivity very seriously. When we have an industry today that shuts them out by the language, then we are still missing the point. When we talk of seamen, chief mate, who is a chief mate? Man overboard. We need to bring the language, even speak to them in a language that tells them, the girls, my daughter of 13, you're welcome. This is your space. Come with me. So those are some of the issues. Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ambassador Nancy. Ms. Nicole, my question for you is, finance can make or break the green transition, and you're right at the center of green hydrogen investments in Africa. How do we make sure these big projects also create opportunities for women? And are there any innovative financing mechanisms that can really drive inclusion?
We have the opportunity to actually be at the forefront of quite a few sort of very novel renewable energy style projects and renewable energy style sort of pre-financial investment decision. So what that really means is that we get to frame how the investments will look like and how we aim to structure the investments. Oh, them apart. Okay. Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry, a bit complicated. Like holding and talking. So as I was saying, we have the opportunity in Namibia to really be quite creative in how we will frame some of the legalities and the framework around some of these renewable energy deals and opportunities. And they can really be used as a blueprint going forward, I feel, for other countries or other sectors in this sort of novel energy space. So what we're busy doing is when particularly foreign companies come in and set up projects, whether it's green hydrogen, green steel, green ammonia, then basically we suggest that they really sit down with the communities to try understand how they can be involved. is it what do they need? What economic benefits do they need? Do they need water? Are there opportunities to give some water to the local communities? Because obviously we're in a very desert type region. Are there opportunities to potentially give some of the offtake of electricity? So yes, maybe these aren't direct financial mechanisms, but they are still financial gains, and it's a way that you structure the financial transaction. Um, for example, the one investment that we have done in country, which was a government-linked project where 24% of the project belongs to government, that we're really focusing on making sure that local socio-economic development frameworks are in place. So how do you get local participation? How do you get local companies involved? How do you make sure that women are a part of it? And so all of that creates and allows for pre-planning and pre-training in correct areas. So let's say there's solar panels. You can create local companies that do solar panel cleaning, that do basic solar panel maintenance, and those jobs can definitely be done by women. And so we're busy looking at how we incorporate those training programs to elevate those skills. And again, I know it's not a direct financing mechanism, but it's all embedded within the contracts and within the negotiations for these deals and for these transactions. So I think that's really the most practical and the most obvious way that we can get women involved in the industries. And like I said, you can't expect local participation or local contribution if you don't provide training. And so I think this goes to your point, Ambassador Nancy, as well. It's about sort of starting early and really preparing those building blocks. And again, whether it's perhaps when a tender is awarded to a company for a renewable energy project, perhaps part of that tender means that they have to create training programs, where local female groups are also part of it, and there's certain targets. There's a lot of creative ways that you can enforce sort of woman training, and I think the only way you do it is through creating these targets when you set up the contracts. Otherwise, unfortunately, if you just rely on market economics, companies will go for the cheapest, and that doesn't always mean local people. It could mean they bring their own, etc. And obviously that would be a shame if this whole industry develops without Africa actually being involved, and B, local people actually being upskilled. And I think that's something that in Namibia we're taking very, very seriously by creating local content policies, ensuring that the financial agreements and contracts have these clauses in it. I think that's super important. In terms of like obvious financial areas, I mean, you can always negotiate equity sharing, so you could participate in giving some sort of non-payment equity to local communities. I mean, that's a whole conversation on its own, whether it's the best way or the non-best way, because sometimes then it just sits with the chiefs and it doesn't filter through to the rest of the ecosystem, which is why I'm a lot more in favor of enforcing these local content targets with women targets, because then there's actually clear outlines of jobs and clear training to get there, where it's not always clear if you give the chiefs the equity participation that it does benefit women as much. There's quite a few sort of studies that have been done on that. So that's kind of how I think we could approach it, and how we should, so that women really participate as part of these transactions. Thank you.
I must say that I'm privileged to be here in the gender bias panel, but I'm happy to be here because these are people who have established themselves within the maritime sector, and I learn a lot from them. So let me just begin by saying that when you look at most climate-induced disasters, especially in coastal and port communities, they are gender sensitive. Most the vulnerable groups most affected are women, And if there's, be it coastal erosion or sea level rise, that results in flooding. You may find that single women are most vulnerable to such impacts. They end up losing the little property that they may have. So, and now, but that does not mean that, especially in Africa, women do not have agency towards climate change mitigation. I just want to use an example from Ghana. Somewhere in 2018, I was part of a fact-finding mission. It had to do with a car power ship, a ship that generates electricity. It was docked at the Tema Fishing Harbor, where a lot of women engage in trade, fish mongering, and fish trading businesses. And we did receive a lot of complaints from them, especially the women, about the impact of the emissions from the vessel on their activities. So a group of regulators had to engage in a fact-finding mission. And we really found very interesting insights from these women. To most of them, the emissions from that vessel was giving them respiratory problems, and they wanted it out of the harbor. Yeah, so in the long run, it was taken to another Takoradi harbor, not necessarily because of the complaints, because we couldn't really establish the correlation between the emissions and also the smoke from the fish mongering business, from their trading activities. Yeah. So now let me just get back to action plans. And I think that with the shipping decarbonization in sight, this is the time for us to move away from the status quo, to do away with the business as usual approach. And I think this is the time to rewrite a new chapter into our national action plans, where we can include women, where women can play a greater role in the process, the decarbonization process. So we are looking at the factors, especially the factors that the patriarchal factors that disadvantage women to participate in this ocean-related and the renewable energy and blue economy enterprise, and it has to do with the training factors that disadvantage in terms of training, recruitment, and welfare in maritime-based jobs. And Ambassador Nancy mentioned issues on the training aspect, where there's a need for countries to target the younger generation. And I think it's something similar that Ghana too we are undertaking. We've reimagined the IMO's Go to Sea campaign, where we are targeting the senior high school students, especially women, encouraging them to take up sea-based jobs. Yeah, but the training, when we ask for training in the maritime field, what kind of training are we talking about? Are we talking about administrative courses? Are we talking about engineering? Are we talking about those courses that can really take them to sea, or those courses that can make them participate meaningfully in the fuel production sector? So that should be where the focus should be. The Regional Maritime University in Ghana in particular, through their social media in the past 2 years, have been advocating and advising on the course contents of the university. And when you visit their sites, one thing that states clearly is that they keep encouraging women to apply for engineering and nautical studies that will lead them into seafaring jobs. So, but there's even one thing having the training, and another thing in terms of seafaring, another thing going on board. Research shows that between men and women, they can equally have training in nautical science or marine engineering, but a lot more women are more likely to take up sea-based, shore-based jobs instead of going to sea. So I think those are other, in terms of social norms and other considerations that we need to factor into our plans. So that being said, we need to ensure that those issues that ensure the welfare and participation of women are reflected in the national action plans. By then, we are talking about the training, which I've already mentioned. And one facilitating key is to ensure that we give them the women scholarships to participate meaningfully. When you look at maritime education in Africa, it's quite expensive. And so there's a need to ensure that, especially within the engineering nautical science students, we institute scholarship programs to ensure that they complete their studies in a stress-free manner. And another consideration is in the aspect of green jobs. There needs to be a deliberate strategy to ensure that women actively participate in all the value chain, the jobs, green jobs within the value chain of the shipping decarbonization. I've mentioned the fuel production sector. We need to ensure that women are well equipped. The seafaring aspect, bunkering relation, and even the managerial aspect. We need to ensure that all those things are well stated there, so that when a nation is implementing the strategy, it will be at the back of their minds that, okay, we need to ensure that there's inclusivity in the process of decarbonization in such a way that we will not leave behind the women. Thank you.